Most people would never look twice at a 1986 penny. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, hidden inside millions of American homes right now, this exact coin could be quietly carrying a story that surprises almost everyone who hears it. Today, we're talking about the 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin many Americans have spent without thinking, dropped into jars, or forgotten in drawers. But behind this simple copper-colored cent is a fascinating moment in U.S. coin history, a year of change, and a handful of details that collectors watch very closely. If you've ever wondered whether a regular-looking penny could actually matter, this story is for you. The 1986 no-mint mark Lincoln penny was made in the United States at the Philadelphia Mint. When a penny has no mint mark under the date, that means it was struck in Philadelphia. This has been true for most Lincoln cents throughout history, and 1986 is no exception. At first glance, the coin looks exactly like what you'd expect. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, a design that has been used since 1909. Above his head is the word Liberty, and in front of his face is the date, 1986, along with the phrase, "In God We Trust." On the back, you see the Lincoln Memorial, the familiar building in Washington, D.C., that appeared on pennies from 1959 until 2008. The words 1 cent and United States of America surround it, with E pluribus unum above the memorial. So why would anyone care about this coin? To understand that, we need to look at what was happening in the mid-1980s. By 1986, the United States had already gone through a major change in penny production. Before 1982, pennies were mostly copper. Rising metal prices made that too expensive, so the U.S. Mint switched to a new composition. Pennies became mostly zinc, with only a thin copper coating on the outside. By 1986, this change was fully in place. The 1986 Lincoln penny is made of 97.5% zinc with a copper plating. It weighs 2.5 grams, which is lighter than older copper pennies. This makes it part of the modern era of U.S. cents, even though many people still think of it as old. But here's where things get interesting. The year 1986 was a massive production year. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 4.4 billion pennies. That is billion, with a B because of that. Most 1986 no-mint mark pennies are very common. In circulated condition, they are usually worth just 1 cent. And yet, collectors do not dismiss this coin, because value doesn't come only from age or mintage numbers. Value comes from condition, errors, and small details that most people never notice. Let's talk about the features collectors look for. First is condition. A 1986 penny that has been heavily circulated, scratched, or darkened from years of use has little premium value. But a penny that was never used, one that still has its original shine and sharp details, is a completely different story. In coin collecting, these are called uncirculated coins. And among uncirculated coins, there are different quality levels. The highest quality examples, often graded by professional services, can sell for far more than face value. A perfectly preserved 1986 no-mint mark penny, with full original luster and no visible marks, can sell for dozens or even hundreds of dollars depending on the grade. This surprises many people because the coin itself looks so ordinary. Next are minting errors. This is where the real excitement begins. Because 1986 pennies were made in such large numbers, mistakes happened. And some of those mistakes slipped into circulation. Collectors look for off-center strikes, where the design is not centered on the coin. They look for doubled letters, especially in the date or the word Liberty. They look for weak strikes, missing details, or unusual surface textures. One of the most talked about errors for modern Lincoln cents is doubling. This happens when parts of the design appear doubled, usually due to a problem during the minting process. True doubling is rare and valuable, especially when it's clear and strong. Another error collectors watch for is planchet errors. This includes coins struck on the wrong metal or with improper thickness. While these are extremely rare for 1986 pennies, confirmed examples can sell for significant amounts at auction. There are also transitional and quality control issues from the 1980s that collectors study closely. The mint was producing coins at incredible speed, and that pressure sometimes led to mistakes that weren't caught. So what about real-world prices? Most circulated 1986 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. That's the reality. But high-grade uncirculated examples tell a different story. Certified examples graded at the top of the scale have sold at auction for over $100. Some exceptional pieces, with near-perfect surfaces and strong strikes, have sold for even more. Error coins are a separate category altogether. A genuine, dramatic error can sell for hundreds of dollars, and in some cases more, depending on how unusual and well documented it is. This is why collectors never stop checking their change. Now let's talk about how to identify a real 1986 no-mint mark penny. First, look under the date. If there is no letter, no D, and no S, then it is a Philadelphia coin. That part is simple. Next, check the weight if you can. A standard 1986 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If it weighs significantly more or less, that could be a sign of damage, corrosion, or in rare cases, an error. Look closely at the lettering and numbers. Use a magnifying glass. Are the letters sharp? Do they appear doubled or blurry? Is the date evenly shaped? Check the color and surface. Modern pennies can sometimes show bubbling or peeling of the copper coating if they've been damaged. That does not add value. In fact, it lowers it. Be cautious of claims online. Many listings exaggerate value. A normal, circulated 1986 penny is not rare. It does not sell for thousands of dollars. The value comes from condition, grading, and verified errors. Here are a few fun facts about the 1986 Lincoln penny. This coin was produced during a time when pennies were already costing more to make than they were worth. Even in 1986, the U.S. government was losing money on every cent produced. The Lincoln Memorial design on the back includes a tiny image of Lincoln inside the memorial. If you look closely, you can actually see him sitting inside the building. This detail has fascinated collectors for decades. The 1980s are now considered a transition period in U.S. coin collecting. Coins from this era are old enough to feel historical, but modern enough that high-grade examples still exist. Some collectors specialize only in Lincoln cents, and many of them aim to collect every year and mint mark in perfect condition. For them, the 1986 no-mint mark penny is an essential piece of the puzzle. So why do collectors love this coin today? Because it represents the idea that value is often hidden in plain sight. The 1986 no-mint mark penny is a reminder that history doesn't always come wrapped in gold or silver. Sometimes, it's hiding in everyday objects we overlook. It also teaches patience and attention to detail. Two pennies from the same year can look identical at first glance, yet one might be worth a cent, and the other could be worth $100 or more. And finally, it connects people to the past. This coin passed through the hands of Americans during the 1980s, a time of cultural change, economic shifts, and everyday life that now feels farther away than we realize. So the next time you see a 1986 penny, don't rush to spend it. Turn it over. Look closely. Check the details. Because even the most ordinary coin can carry an extraordinary story. And sometimes, the real treasure isn't just what the coin is worth, but the curiosity it sparks and the history it invites you to explore. Imagine pulling a single penny from your pocket and realizing it might be hiding a secret most people never notice. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but under the right light, could tell a surprising story. Today, we're talking about the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin millions have seen, but very few truly understand. At first glance, the 1994 Lincoln penny doesn't look special. It shows Abraham Lincoln on the front, just like so many other pennies you've seen your whole life. On the back, it carries the familiar Lincoln Memorial design. But this particular penny comes from a very specific moment in American coin history, and that's where its story begins. A no-mint mark penny means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For most of U.S. coin history, Philadelphia did not place a mint mark on pennies. So when you see a 1994 penny without a letter under the date, it tells you exactly where it was made. In 1994, the Philadelphia Mint was producing enormous numbers of cents, supplying everyday money for a growing economy and a nation still heavily dependent on cash transactions. The year 1994 sits in an interesting place in American history. The country was experiencing economic growth, everyday prices were rising slowly, and coins were being produced in massive quantities to meet demand. Pennies were still widely used for change at grocery stores, gas stations, and vending machines. The Lincoln Memorial penny, first introduced in 1959, had become one of the most recognizable coins in the world by this time. The 1994 Lincoln penny was not created to be rare or special. It was designed for everyday use. But history has a way of turning ordinary objects into collectibles, especially when small details make big differences. This penny is made primarily of zinc, with a thin outer layer of copper. That change happened in 1982, when rising copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to adjust the composition of the cent. By 1994, almost all Lincoln pennies were zinc-based. This means the coin is lighter than older copper pennies, and it reacts differently to wear and damage over time. The design on the front shows Abraham Lincoln, based on Victor David Brenner's famous portrait. The words "In God We Trust" appear above Lincoln's head, Liberty sits to the left, and the year 1994 appears to the right. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands in the center, with United States of America across the top and 1 cent at the bottom. So why do collectors care about a penny that was made by the hundreds of millions? The answer lies in condition and in small details most people overlook. Most 1994 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, but some examples, especially those in excellent condition, can be worth much more. Coins that were never circulated, known as uncirculated coins, can show sharp details, bright color, and no wear. These are the coins collectors search for. There is also one very important variety that makes the 1994 penny especially interesting. This is the 1994 close AM variety. On most Lincoln Memorial pennies, the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse have a noticeable gap between them. This is called the wide AM design. But on a small number of 1994 pennies, the A and M are very close together, almost touching. This is known as the close AM variety. The close AM design was intended for proof coins, not regular circulation coins. Somehow, a small number of these proof-style reverse dies were used to strike regular pennies at the Philadelphia Mint. These coins slipped into circulation unnoticed, and today they are highly sought after by collectors. A genuine 1994 close AM penny can be worth hundreds of dollars, and in top condition, sometimes even more. This is where the excitement around this coin really comes from. There have been documented auction sales where certified 1994 close AM pennies sold for several $100s, especially when graded by professional coin grading services. Coins in near-perfect condition have sold for impressive prices, considering their humble face value. Even standard 1994 no-mint mark pennies, without the close AM feature, can carry value if they are in exceptional condition. A perfectly preserved example can sell for several dollars, which may not sound like much, but for a penny, it's a significant increase. So how do you know if you have something special? First, look under the date. If there is no letter, you have a Philadelphia minted penny. That's your starting point. Next, turn the coin over and focus on the word America. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Look closely at the space between the A and the M. If the letters are clearly separated, it's the common wide AM version. If they are very close together, almost touching, you may have found the rare close AM variety. Also check the overall condition of the coin. Sharp details on Lincoln's face, clear lettering, and minimal scratches all add to a coin's desirability. Coins that have been heavily worn, corroded, or damaged are usually worth less. When it comes to fakes, most counterfeit pennies are not created from scratch. Instead, altered coins are sometimes passed off as rare varieties. People may try to modify the lettering or misrepresent a damaged coin as an error. The best way to protect yourself is to compare your coin with verified images from trusted sources, and for high-value pieces, consider professional grading. One surprising fact about the 1994 penny is how many are still out there. Millions were saved in jars, drawers, and boxes, forgotten for decades. This means new discoveries are still being made today by people who simply decided to look a little closer at their change. Another fun detail is that many collectors enjoy searching for this coin because it represents the thrill of the hunt. Unlike extremely rare coins that almost no one can afford, the 1994 penny is accessible. Anyone can find one, and that makes it exciting. Collectors love this coin because it reminds them that valuable finds don't always come from ancient history or gold vaults. Sometimes, they come from everyday life. A penny passed through countless hands can suddenly become a prized collectible because of a tiny design detail. The 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny also marks the final decade of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse. Just 15 years later, in 2009, the design would change. That makes coins from the 1990s part of the closing chapter of a long-running design era. Today, collectors look at the 1994 penny as a symbol of modern coin collecting. It teaches patience, attention to detail, and the importance of condition. It shows that even common coins deserve a second look. So the next time you see a 1994 penny, don't dismiss it. Turn it over. Look closely. That small copper-colored coin might not just be spare change. It might be a reminder that history hides in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. And who knows? The next valuable coin story might not come from a museum or an auction house. It might come from your pocket. Most people would never look twice at a 1991 penny. It sits in jars, couch cushions, and pockets all across America. But what if I told you that one quiet detail on this coin has made millions of people search their change more carefully than ever before? This video is about the 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, yet holds stories, surprises, and in rare cases, real collector value. By the end of this video, you may want to check every penny you've ever saved. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a United States 1-cent coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint. When a penny has no mint mark below the date, it means it was made in Philadelphia. This is not a mistake. It is how Philadelphia coins were identified for most of American history. But that small missing letter has confused generations of collectors and sparked endless curiosity. To understand this coin, we need to go back to the year 1991. America was changing. The Cold War was ending. Technology was moving fast. Yet the penny remained a daily object passed from hand to hand, unchanged in size and purpose. In 1991, the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies to keep up with everyday commerce. Philadelphia alone struck more than 5 billion Lincoln cents that year. This penny continued a design that Americans had known for decades. Abraham Lincoln's portrait had been on the cent since 1909, chosen to honor the 100th anniversary of his birth. By 1991, the design was familiar, trusted, and symbolic. The coin represented stability in a rapidly changing world. The 1991 Lincoln penny is made mostly of zinc, with a thin copper coating on the outside. This change in metal had been made years earlier to reduce costs, but many people still assume all pennies are solid copper. This misunderstanding alone makes the coin interesting to explain and examine. On the front, you see Lincoln facing right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1991 to the right. Below the date is the key detail. There is no mint mark. That absence tells us this coin came from Philadelphia. On the back, you see the Lincoln Memorial, a design used from 1959 until 2008. If you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. This detail fascinates many collectors because it means Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin. At first glance, there is nothing rare about a standard 1991 no-mint mark penny. Most of them are worth exactly 1 cent. But coins are not judged only by their date and mint. Condition and errors can completely change a coin's value. This is where things get interesting. Some 1991 pennies were struck with errors during the minting process. These errors are unplanned and relatively rare compared to normal coins. They are also the main reason people search rolls of pennies today. One known error is off-center strikes. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned when struck by the dies. The result is a penny with part of the design missing and blank metal showing. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these coins can sell for tens or even hundreds of dollars. Another collectible error is a broad strike, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar. This causes the penny to spread wider than normal and look slightly flattened. These errors are easy to spot if you know what to look for. Collectors also watch for doubled die errors. These occur when the die itself has a doubled image, causing parts of the design or lettering to appear doubled. On a genuine doubled die, the doubling looks strong and clear, not blurry. While major doubled dies from 1991 are rare, minor examples do exist and can still bring strong interest from collectors. Condition matters just as much as errors. A regular 1991 no-mint mark penny pulled from circulation is usually worn and dull. But one that has never been used, known as uncirculated, can look bright, sharp, and clean. Coins graded in high mint state condition can sell for several dollars, even without errors. There have been auction examples where pristine 1991 Philadelphia pennies graded MS67 or higher sold for significantly more than face value. While these are not life-changing amounts, they prove that condition alone can make a common coin desirable. So how do you tell if you have a real 1991 no-mint mark penny worth keeping? First, look at the date. Make sure it clearly reads 1991. Then look directly below the date. If there is no letter, it is from Philadelphia. If you see a D, it came from Denver. If you see an S, it was made in San Francisco, usually as a proof coin. Next, examine the coin's weight. A genuine 1991 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. A scale can help confirm this. A coin that weighs significantly more or less may be damaged or altered. Check the edge and surface carefully. Real mint errors are part of the metal itself. They are not scratches, dents, or damage from circulation. True errors look natural and flow with the design. Be cautious of altered coins. Some people try to remove mint marks to make coins appear more valuable. Under magnification, these alterations usually leave tool marks or uneven surfaces. A genuine no-mint mark penny will look smooth and original. One surprising fact about the 1991 penny is just how many people saved them without knowing why. During the early 1990s, rumors spread that certain pennies would one day be valuable. Many families began storing rolls in drawers and boxes. Today, those same pennies are being rediscovered. Another fun detail is that the Lincoln Memorial design was nearing the end of its long run. Within less than 2 decades, it would be replaced by new reverse designs. That gives coins like the 1991 penny a nostalgic place in modern American coin history. Collectors love this coin not because it is rare, but because it represents the thrill of the hunt. It reminds people that valuable coins don't always look special at first glance. Sometimes, they are hiding in plain sight. The 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny teaches an important lesson. Coin collecting is not just about chasing million-dollar rarities. It's about learning history, paying attention to details, and enjoying the search. Every coin has a story, even the ones we overlook. Today, collectors still search through bank rolls and old jars hoping to find a high-grade example or a genuine mint error from 1991. The odds are slim, but the excitement is real. That feeling of discovery is what keeps the hobby alive. So the next time you see a penny dated 1991, don't dismiss it too quickly. Turn it over. Look closely. Check the date, the mint mark, and the condition. You may not find a treasure, but you will be holding a small piece of American history. And sometimes, the most ordinary coins are the ones that spark the greatest curiosity. Most people would walk past this coin without a second glance. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But what if I told you that a simple 1997 Lincoln penny could be worth far more than 1 cent, and that some people have already cashed in without ever realizing what they had at first? This is the 1997 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands, spent at grocery stores, or left forgotten in jars and drawers. At first glance, it seems like nothing special, but as with many U.S. coins, the real story lives in the details. The 1997 Lincoln penny was minted in the United States in the late 1990s, a time when pennies were still heavily used in daily life. The letter D below the date tells us it was made at the Denver Mint, one of the largest and most productive mints in the country. In fact, more than 3 billion Lincoln pennies were struck in Denver in 1997 alone. So why would anyone care about a penny that was made in such massive numbers? To understand that, we need to step back and look at what this coin represents. The Lincoln cent has been part of American life since 1909, created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1997, the design had already become iconic. On the front of the coin, you see Abraham Lincoln facing right, a portrait that had remained largely unchanged for decades. The words "In God We Trust" sit above his head, with liberty to the left and the date to the right. On the back of the 1997 penny, you find the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, making this one of the few U.S. coins to show the same person on both sides. By the late 1990s, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. Rising metal costs forced the U.S. Mint to change the composition years earlier. The 1997 penny is made of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. It weighs about 2.5 grams and has a smooth edge. At face value, this sounds like a very ordinary coin, and in most cases it is. But collectors know something that casual spenders do not. Value is not only about how many coins were made. It is about condition, errors, and survival. While billions of 1997 pennies were produced, very few remain in perfect condition today. Most were scratched, worn, or damaged almost immediately through everyday use. Coins that never entered circulation, known as uncirculated coins, are much harder to find than people expect. And then there are errors. During the high-speed minting process, mistakes can happen. When they do, those mistakes can turn a common penny into something collectors actively search for. One of the most talked about error types for modern Lincoln pennies includes off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned on the coin. Another is a double die error, where parts of the design appear doubled, especially in the lettering or date. There are also broad strike errors, clipped planchets, and weak strikes, where details are softer than they should be. A genuine error coin from 1997 with a D mint mark can sell for far more than face value, depending on how dramatic and clear the error is. Even without errors, condition alone can make a difference. Professional coin graders use a scale to judge how well a coin has survived. A heavily worn penny might be worth only 1 cent, but a 1997 D penny graded in near-perfect condition can sell for several dollars, sometimes more, especially if it has strong luster and sharp details. There have been documented sales where high-grade examples of 1997 D pennies, certified by major grading companies, sold for prices that surprise most people. While we are not talking about life-changing money for standard examples, we are talking about values that are dozens or even hundreds of times higher than face value. For collectors, that matters. The reason is simple. Modern coins in top condition are harder to find than older coins that were carefully saved. In the 1990s, few people thought to store pennies in rolls or protective holders. Most were spent immediately. That makes pristine examples more desirable today. Of course, with value comes imitation and confusion. So how do you identify a real 1997 D Lincoln penny? Start with the basics. Look at the date. It should clearly read 1997. Below the date, you should see a small D mint mark indicating Denver. The color should be a warm copper tone, not silver or gray. The coin should weigh about 2.5 grams if you have a precise scale. The details matter. Lincoln's hair, jawline, and coat should be well defined on higher quality coins. On the reverse, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial should be visible. If the coin looks unusually light, oddly colored, or poorly detailed, it may be damaged or altered. If you believe you have an error coin, do not clean it. Cleaning can destroy collector value instantly. Instead, compare it to known examples or consider having it evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or grading service. There are also some fun and surprising facts about the 1997 penny that many people don't know. In 1997, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with production efficiency, which led to subtle variations in strike quality. Some coins appear sharper than others even though they came from the same mint and year. These small differences are part of what keeps collectors interested. Another interesting detail is that pennies from the late 1990s often show zinc corrosion if the copper plating is damaged. This makes well-preserved examples stand out even more because they survived decades without breaking through the surface layer. Collectors today love the 1997 D Lincoln penny not because it is rare in numbers, but because it represents a moment in modern American coinage. It comes from a time before digital payments took over daily life, when coins still passed through countless hands every day. For new collectors, it is an accessible entry point. For experienced collectors, it is a challenge to find in exceptional condition. For everyday people, it is a reminder that value can hide in plain sight. The next time you see a penny dated 1997 with a small D below the year, pause for a moment. Look at it closely. Check its condition. Think about where it has been and how many hands it has passed through. Because sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins carry stories, history, and value that far exceed their humble appearance. And who knows? The penny you almost ignored today might be the one that sparks your curiosity tomorrow. Most people would walk right past this coin without a second thought. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, the 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has quietly become one of the most searched modern pennies in America. Some versions are worth only 1 cent. Others have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And the difference comes down to details so small, most people never notice them. This coin is the 2004 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent piece with no mint mark. If you look at the front of the coin and don't see a letter under the date, that means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint. In 2004, Philadelphia produced billions of pennies, and by tradition, pennies made there usually do not carry a mint mark. That's why this coin is so common in circulation, yet also so misunderstood. To understand why collectors still care about this penny, we need to go back to the year 2004. The United States was in the middle of a new century. Cash was still king. Pennies were being produced in massive numbers for everyday use. The Lincoln Memorial design, first introduced in 1959, was nearing the end of its long run, but it was still a familiar symbol in American pockets. The 2004 penny represents one of the final full years before major design changes arrived just a few years later. The obverse of the coin shows Abraham Lincoln, based on the famous Victor David Brenner design. Lincoln faces right, with the date 2004 behind his shoulder. Above his head are the words "In God We Trust," and in front of his face is the word "Liberty." If there is no mint mark under the date, that tells us it came from Philadelphia. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands centered, with the words "United States of America" and 1 cent surrounding it. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a detail many people never notice. By 2004, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. The coin is mostly zinc, about 97.5%, with a thin copper coating on the outside. This change happened back in 1982 to reduce production costs. Because of that, the 2004 penny feels lighter than older copper cents, and it reacts differently to wear and damage. So if billions were made, why would anyone think this penny could be valuable? The answer lies in condition, mistakes, and the stories collectors tell themselves when they find something unexpected. In average circulated condition, a 2004 no-mint mark penny is worth exactly 1 cent. There's no secret there. But collectors don't search for average coins. They search for extremes. They look for pennies that were preserved perfectly from the day they were struck, or coins that left the mint with errors that should never have happened. In uncirculated condition, especially coins graded by professional services, values begin to rise. A 2004 Philadelphia penny graded MS67 or higher can sell for anywhere from $30 to over $100, depending on eye appeal. Coins graded MS68 are rare because modern pennies are often poorly struck or quickly damaged in bags and rolls. When one survives in near-perfect condition, collectors notice. Errors are where things get truly interesting. Some 2004 no-mint mark pennies were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Others show broad strikes, where the coin spread out wider than normal due to a collar malfunction. There are examples with double strikes, where the coin was hit more than once by the dies, creating ghost-like images. These are not damage from circulation. They happened at the mint, and that makes all the difference. One of the most sought-after errors is the doubled die. On certain coins, parts of the design appear doubled, especially the date, the word "Liberty," or "In God We Trust." These are subtle and require careful inspection, but when confirmed, they can push a penny's value into the hundreds of dollars. Some strong doubled dies from this era have sold at auction for $300 to $800, depending on clarity and condition. Another collectible variety includes die cracks and cud errors, where cracks form in the die and transfer raised lines or blobs of metal onto the coin. While minor die cracks are common, dramatic examples attract collectors who enjoy visible mint flaws. Auction records show that most high-value sales come from certified coins. A pristine 2004 no-mint mark penny graded MS68 red has sold for over $1,000 in competitive auctions. That kind of price shocks people, especially when they realize the coin may have once been tossed into a tip jar or forgotten in a drawer. Identifying a valuable example starts with careful observation. First, confirm the date and the lack of a mint mark. Then examine the surfaces under good lighting. Look for strong luster, sharp details, and clean fields with no scratches or stains. Any unusual doubling, misalignment, or raised metal should be examined closely. A simple magnifying glass can reveal details invisible to the naked eye. Weight can also help. A normal 2004 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. Significant variation could point to an error, such as a wrong planchet strike. Magnet tests are useful too. A genuine 2004 penny should not stick to a magnet. If it does, something is wrong. Fake 2004 pennies are rare, but altered coins do exist. Some people try to add fake doubling or modify surfaces to mimic errors. True mint errors usually show smooth, natural metal flow, not tool marks or scratches. When in doubt, professional grading services provide authentication and peace of mind. One surprising fact about the 2004 penny is how transitional it feels. It sits quietly between eras. Just 5 years later, in 2009, the Lincoln penny would receive a complete redesign with 4 different reverse designs honoring Lincoln's life. In that sense, the 2004 Memorial Penny represents the closing chapter of a familiar American icon. Collectors love this coin not because it is rare by itself, but because it reminds them that valuable coins don't always announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. They look ordinary until knowledge changes the way you see them. Another fun detail is how many 2004 pennies still exist in original bank rolls. Roll hunters continue to search unopened rolls from this year, hoping to find top-grade examples or dramatic errors. The thrill comes from knowing that even today, new discoveries are still possible. For many collectors, the 2004 no-mint mark penny is a gateway coin. It teaches patience. It teaches attention to detail. And it teaches that modern coins can still carry real value if you know what to look for. As time goes on, fewer pristine examples survive. Zinc cores corrode. Copper plating bubbles. Circulated coins degrade quickly. That slow disappearance gives well-preserved coins more importance with each passing year. So the next time you see a 2004 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Turn it over. Tilt it in the light. Look closer than you ever have before. Because sometimes, the most unassuming coin in your hand carries a story that's still unfolding. And the only way to find out is to keep looking. Most people would walk right past this coin without a second glance. It looks ordinary, worn, and familiar. But what if I told you that a single 1979 Lincoln penny, the kind that once bought a piece of candy, can still surprise collectors today, and in certain conditions, sell for far more than 1 cent? The story behind this penny is quieter than legends of million-dollar coins, but that is exactly what makes it interesting. The coin we're talking about today is the 1979 mint mark Lincoln penny. This penny was struck in Denver, carries the face of Abraham Lincoln, and was part of everyday American life during a time of major change in the United States. It is not a fantasy coin or a myth, but a real piece of history that millions of people once carried in their pockets. The Lincoln penny design itself had already been around for decades by 1979. Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the 1 cent coin in 1909, honoring the 100th anniversary of his birth. By the late 1970s, the design had become one of the most recognizable coins in the country. The front shows Lincoln's calm profile, while the back still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. The year 1979 was an important moment in American history. The country was facing inflation, rising energy costs, and economic uncertainty. Gas lines, higher prices, and changing lifestyles were part of daily life. During this period, the U.S. Mint was producing massive numbers of coins to keep up with circulation needs. The Denver Mint played a major role in this effort, striking hundreds of millions of pennies that year. The small letter D beneath the date tells us this penny was minted in Denver, Colorado. That single letter is important because coins from different mints can vary slightly in quality, strike strength, and rarity. In 1979, the Denver Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln pennies. That sounds like an enormous number, and it is. But within those billions are coins that stand out in unexpected ways. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny is made primarily of copper. Unlike modern pennies, which are mostly zinc, these coins are about 95% copper with a small amount of zinc mixed in. This gives the coin a heavier feel and a warmer, richer color when it is well preserved. Many collectors today prefer these copper-based pennies because they represent the end of an era. Design-wise, the coin follows the classic Lincoln memorial style. Lincoln's portrait on the front was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose initials can be found at the base of Lincoln's shoulder. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial appears with tiny statues and columns that can still be seen clearly on well-struck examples. The words 1 cent and United States of America frame the design, reminding us how simple and direct American coinage once was. So why would anyone care about a penny that was made by the billions? The answer lies in condition, detail, and small mistakes. Most 1979 D pennies were heavily used. They were tossed into jars, scraped across counters, and spent countless times. Finding one today in truly pristine condition is much harder than it sounds. Coins are graded based on how well they were preserved. A 1979 D penny that shows wear, scratches, or dull surfaces is usually worth only face value. But coins that were never circulated, known as uncirculated coins, can be far more valuable. Some examples that were carefully stored from the moment they were made still show full luster, sharp details, and a smooth surface. In high mint state grades, especially those certified by professional grading services, 1979 D pennies have sold for impressive amounts. Coins graded MS67 or higher are particularly sought after. These are coins with nearly perfect surfaces and strong strikes. At auction, such examples have sold for hundreds of dollars, and in rare cases, even more. Another reason collectors pay attention to this penny is the possibility of mint errors. Errors occur when something goes wrong during the striking process. In 1979, some pennies were struck slightly off-center, while others show doubled features where parts of the design appear twice. There are also examples with clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin's edge is missing due to a metal cutting error. One of the most interesting errors involves weak strikes, where parts of the design did not fully form. This can result in missing details on Lincoln's hair or faint lettering. While these errors might look like damage to an untrained eye, collectors recognize them as genuine mint mistakes, and they can increase a coin's value significantly. Real auction records show that error coins from 1979 D have sold anywhere from $50 to several $100s, depending on the type and severity of the error. Even small mistakes can attract serious collector interest, especially when the coin is otherwise well preserved. Of course, with value comes the risk of fakes or altered coins. While fake pennies are less common than fake gold coins, they do exist. Some people try to modify normal coins to imitate errors. To identify a genuine 1979 D penny, start by checking the weight. A real copper penny from this period should weigh about 3.11 grams. A noticeable difference could be a red flag. Next, look closely at the mint mark. On genuine coins, the D mint mark is clean, well-shaped, and part of the original strike. If it looks scratched, uneven, or glued on, it may have been added later. Magnification can help reveal these details. Professional grading services remain the safest way to confirm authenticity and value. While not every coin is worth sending in, high-quality examples or unusual errors are often worth the effort. Certification not only protects buyers and sellers but also preserves the coin's history. There are also fun and surprising details about the 1979 D penny that many people don't know. For example, this penny was made just a few years before the U.S. Mint switched to zinc-based pennies in 1982. That makes it part of the final generation of mostly copper cents. Some people even set these aside purely for their metal content, though collectors value condition far more than copper alone. Another interesting fact is that many 1979 pennies were saved by the public at the time. Rising copper prices led some people to hoard pennies, believing they might one day be worth more melted down. While melting pennies is illegal, those saved coins sometimes resurface decades later in excellent condition, surprising their owners. Collectors today appreciate the 1979 D. Lincoln penny not because it is flashy, but because it represents everyday America. It tells a story of grocery stores, payphones, and pocket change during a challenging economic period. It is a reminder that history does not always come in gold or silver. Sometimes it comes in copper, worn smooth by millions of hands. For new collectors, this coin is also an accessible entry point. You don't need a fortune to start looking for high-quality examples. Searching through old jars, inherited collections, or rolls from the bank can still be exciting. The thrill comes from the hunt, not just the price tag. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny may never reach the legendary status of a 1909 SVDB or a rare error worth millions, but it doesn't need to. Its value lies in its story, its condition, and the small details that separate the ordinary from the special. So the next time you see a 1979 penny with a tiny D beneath the date, pause for a moment. Look at its surface. Check its details. Consider where it's been and what it has witnessed. In that small copper coin, you might just be holding a quiet piece of American history waiting to be noticed. Most people would never give this penny a second look. It sits quietly in jars, drawers, and old wallets. But what if I told you that a simple 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark could still hold a story worth knowing, and in certain cases, real money worth checking for? This is the story of the 1971 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that millions of Americans have handled, yet very few truly understand. The 1971 Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin produced by the United States Mint during a time of major change in America. If your penny has no small letter under the date, that means it was struck in Philadelphia. At the time, the Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark on pennies, which is why this coin simply shows the year 1971 beneath Abraham Lincoln's portrait. On the surface, it looks ordinary, but coins are not just money. They are historical fingerprints, frozen moments of the past. And 1971 was a year filled with transition, uncertainty, and quiet significance. In 1971, the United States was deep into the Vietnam War era. Inflation was rising, and later that same year, the U.S. would officially end the gold standard, changing global money forever. The penny you might hold from 1971 was minted during a time when Americans were questioning institutions, redefining values, and facing economic pressure. The Lincoln cent design itself had already been around for over 60 years by then. First introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it became the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. By 1971, the design was familiar, trusted, and deeply woven into daily American life. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head is the word liberty. Behind him is the phrase "In God we trust." Below is the date, 1971. There is no mint mark, which tells us it came from Philadelphia. The back of the coin shows the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959. If you look closely, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. This makes it one of the few U.S. coins to show the same person on both sides. The metal composition of the 1971 penny is also important. It is made mostly of copper, about 95% copper with a small amount of zinc. That gives it a solid weight and a warm reddish-brown color when well preserved. Just a year later, rising copper prices would push the mint toward changing materials, making these older copper pennies more desirable to collectors today. Now here's the key question most people ask. Is the 1971 no mint mark Lincoln penny rare? In general, The answer is no. Over 2 billion of these pennies were minted, making standard examples very common. In worn condition, a normal 1971 penny is usually worth just 1 cent, maybe 2 or 3 cents for its copper content. But that is not the end of the story. Where this coin becomes interesting is condition and errors. In the coin world, small mistakes can turn ordinary coins into collector treasures. One of the most valuable versions of the 1971 penny is one in near-perfect condition. Coins are graded on a scale, and pennies that survive decades without scratches, wear, or discoloration can be surprisingly valuable. A 1971 penny graded in top mint condition has sold at auction for several $1,000s. Collectors pay high prices for perfection because it is rare for a coin meant for everyday use to survive untouched. Then there are mint errors. Some 1971 pennies were struck off-center, meaning the design is not properly aligned on the coin. Others show doubled letters, where parts of the text appear slightly reinforcing or shadowed due to a misaligned die. There are also pennies from this year with clipped planchets, where part of the coin edge is missing because of a cutting error at the mint. These errors are genuine mistakes made during production, and collectors love them because each one is unique. For example, a 1971 penny with a strong off-center strike can sell for anywhere from $50 to several $100s, depending on how dramatic the error is. A well-documented doubled die example can sell for even more. There have been auction records where high-grade 1971 no-mint mark pennies, professionally graded, sold for over $4,000. These are not average coins, but they prove that value is possible under the right conditions. So how do you know if your 1971 penny is worth more than face value? Start by checking the condition. Look closely at Lincoln's face. If the details in his hair, coat, and jawline are sharp and clear, that is a good sign. Check the lettering. If Liberty and In God We Trust are crisp with no blurring, the coin may be in higher grade. Next, examine the date and letters for doubling. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. True doubling will look like extra thickness or separation in the letters, not just damage. Check the edges and shape of the coin. An unusual curve, missing section, or uneven rim could indicate a mint error. Also weigh the coin if possible. A standard 1971 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. A noticeable difference could suggest an error or damage. Be careful with claims of fakes. The 1971 penny is rarely counterfeited because most examples are common. However, altered coins do exist. Some people try to modify dates or add fake doubling. Real mint errors usually show consistent patterns, not random scratches. If you believe you have something special, the best step is to have it evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. There are also fun and surprising details about this coin that many people don't know. Because it is made of mostly copper, the metal value of a 1971 penny can sometimes exceed its face value, especially when copper prices rise. That's why many people save old pennies in jars, hoping future laws or markets may allow melting them legally. Another interesting fact is that children born in 1971 are now in their 50s. That means this coin has been part of American life for over half a century, quietly passing through countless hands. Collectors also appreciate the 1971 penny because it represents the end of an era. Just a few years later, the U.S. Mint would dramatically change how pennies were made, and copper-rich cents like this would slowly disappear from circulation. Today, collectors love the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny not because it is flashy or famous, but because it is honest. It tells the story of everyday America. It reminds people that value is not always obvious at first glance. For new collectors, it is an affordable entry point. For experienced collectors, it is a condition challenge. And for everyday people, it is a reminder to look twice before dismissing something as ordinary. So the next time you come across a 1971 penny with no mint mark, don't rush to spend it. Hold it, turn it over, look closely, ask yourself where it's been and what story it might still be hiding. Because sometimes the most interesting treasures are the ones we've been overlooking our entire lives. Most people would never look twice at a penny from 2019. But what if I told you that one quiet detail on this coin has made millions of people search their pockets, their jars, and their drawers, wondering if they're holding something special? This coin is the 2019 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar face is there, just like always. The year looks modern, recent, and almost boring. And yet this penny has sparked curiosity, confusion, and even excitement among collectors and everyday Americans alike. So what exactly is this coin, and why are people talking about it? The 2019 no mint mark Lincoln penny is a 1-cent coin struck by the United States Mint in the year 2019. The key phrase here is no mint mark. In U.S. coinage, a mint mark is a small letter that tells you where a coin was made. A D means Denver, an S means San Francisco. But when there is no mint mark at all, that usually means the coin was made in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the oldest U.S. mint, and for most of history, it didn't use a mint mark on pennies. Even today, many Lincoln cents from Philadelphia still carry no mint mark. That makes the phrase, no mint mark, sound mysterious, but it's actually part of a long tradition. To understand this coin better, we need to step back and look at the year 2019 itself. In 2019, the United States was producing billions of pennies. Despite debates about whether the penny should still exist, it remained one of the most widely produced coins in the country. The Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909, had already been in circulation for 110 years by that point. It was the longest-running design in U.S. coin history. The year 2019 was also significant because it followed the end of the Lincoln Bicentennial Series. In 2009, the Mint had released 4 special reverse designs to celebrate 200 years since Lincoln's birth. By 2019, the design had settled into its modern form, known as the Union Shield Reverse, which first appeared in 2010. So the 2019 penny represents a mature, modern version of a very old American coin. It wasn't made to celebrate a major anniversary. It wasn't intended to be rare. It was made for everyday use, to pass through millions of hands without anyone paying attention. And that's exactly why some people find it fascinating. Let's talk about what this coin is made of and what it looks like. The 2019 Lincoln penny is not made of solid copper, even though it looks copper-colored. Like all modern pennies since 1982, it is mostly zinc, about 97.5%, with a very thin copper coating on the outside. This change was made decades ago to save money, as copper became too expensive. On the front of the coin, you'll see Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. This portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and has been used with small updates for over a century. Above Lincoln's head is the phrase, "In God we trust." In front of his face is the word liberty. Below is the year, 2019. On the back, you'll see the Union Shield design. 13 vertical stripes represent the original 13 states, held together by a horizontal bar at the top. Above the shield are the words United States of America, and below it is 1 cent. This design symbolizes national unity and strength. Everything about the coin feels familiar. And yet, this is where the story starts to get interesting. If the 2019 no mint mark penny is so common, why do people ask if it's rare or valuable? The answer lies in errors, condition, and misunderstanding. First, let's clear up an important point. A regular 2019 no mint mark Lincoln penny, in average circulated condition, is usually worth exactly 1 cent. You could find dozens of them in loose change right now. They were produced in massive numbers at the Philadelphia Mint. But collectors don't look at coins the way most people do. Collectors look for exceptions. One reason the 2019 no mint mark penny gets attention is because people expect modern coins to have mint marks. When they don't see one, they assume something is missing or wrong. That curiosity sends them searching online, where they see headlines about rare errors and high prices. And yes, some 2019 pennies really are valuable, but not because they lack a mint mark alone. The value comes from mistakes made during the minting process. For example, some 2019 pennies were struck off-center, meaning the design is not properly aligned. Others show doubling in the lettering or Lincoln's features, known as double die errors. Some coins have cracks in the die that appear as raised lines on the coin. Others were struck on the wrong type of metal blank, which is extremely rare. When a 2019 no mint mark penny has a clear, dramatic error and is in excellent condition, collectors take notice. There have been verified sales where error pennies from 2019 sold for tens of dollars, sometimes over $100, depending on the type and clarity of the error. In uncirculated condition, a perfectly preserved 2019 Philadelphia penny can also sell for a few dollars to collectors who want flawless examples for their albums. These are not million-dollar coins. They won't buy you a house, but they are far more valuable than 1 cent to the right person. So how can you tell if your 2019 no mint mark penny is just ordinary or something worth a closer look? Start by checking the date and mint mark. Make sure the coin clearly says 2019 and has no letter under the date. That confirms it was made in Philadelphia. Next, look closely at the design. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Look at the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and 1 cent. Do the letters look doubled or blurry? Does Lincoln's eye, ear, or profile appear doubled? Then look at the edges and surface. Are there unusual lines, bumps, or cracks that don't look like scratches? Is the coin perfectly round, or does part of the design seem cut off? Also check the weight. A normal 2019 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. If it weighs significantly more or less, it could indicate a wrong metal error, though those are very rare. Be cautious about fakes. While it's uncommon to fake modern pennies, altered coins do exist. Some people add damage or try to exaggerate normal wear to make a coin seem like an error. A genuine mint error will usually look clean and intentional, not rough or scratched. If you think you have something unusual, compare it to photos from reputable coin collecting sources or consider having it evaluated by a professional coin dealer. There are also some fun and surprising details about the 2019 Lincoln penny that many people don't realize. For one, it costs more than 1 cent to produce a penny. In 2019, the U.S. Mint spent nearly 2 cents to make each one. That means every penny represents a small financial loss for the government, which fuels ongoing debates about whether the penny should be retired. Another interesting fact is that billions of 2019 pennies were made, yet many people still set them aside because of online rumors and curiosity. This has turned the coin into a modern example of how information, and sometimes misinformation, can influence collecting habits. Collectors also appreciate the 2019 penny as part of a complete date set. Some collectors aim to own one penny from every year of Lincoln cent production. For them, condition matters more than rarity. A clean, uncirculated 2019 no mint mark penny is still desirable for completing a high-quality collection. And then there's the emotional side. For many people, a 2019 penny reminds them of recent history. It represents a time just before major global changes, a snapshot of everyday life when coins still passed freely from hand to hand. In that sense, even a common penny can carry meaning. So why do collectors still care about this coin today? Because coin collecting isn't only about extreme rarity or massive prices. It's about stories, details, and the thrill of discovery. It's about finding something unexpected in something ordinary. The 2019 no mint mark Lincoln penny teaches an important lesson. Not every valuable coin looks old. Not every interesting coin is rare. Sometimes the value lies in knowing what to look for and understanding why a coin exists in the first place. The next time you see a penny dated 2019, don't just toss it aside. Turn it over. Look at it closely. Ask yourself where it's been and how many hands it's passed through. Because even the most common coin can spark curiosity, and sometimes that curiosity is worth far more than 1 cent. And who knows? The penny you ignore today might be the one that makes you see your pocket change in a whole new way tomorrow.